Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video, as you can see by the title, is going to be all about my first trimester. I want to bring you guys through week by week all of my symptoms, what I've experienced, just how I've been feeling in general. And I am into my second trimester now, so I'm about 15 and a half weeks. I'm almost 16 weeks, so I figure now is a good time to film this while it's all still like fairly fresh in my memory. I do have a few notes written down on my phone as well because I didn't want to forget anything, and I had a lot of symptoms, like a lot. I pretty much experienced them all. And when I first found out I was pregnant, and I would say like the first 2 to 3 weeks after, I binge watched first trimester recap videos because I wanted to get a sense of what other women experienced. I wanted to see what I may or may not be in for. It's one of those things you have no idea, even if it's not your first pregnancy, if you've been pregnant before. Every pregnancy can be extremely different. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. But this is my first baby, so I have never been pregnant before, so I had no idea what my body was going to be like, how I was going to react. I'm honestly, like Nick called me, a delicate flower, which is kind of true. I'm kind of like sensitive when it comes to just my body and like health things. Like I have a really sensitive stomach. If I eat the wrong thing, my stomach's off for like the whole day, just little things like that. So I was a bit nervous going into my first trimester. I've heard horror stories as well. Like I know people who have had HG, which is the, I can't remember what it stands for, but I'm sure lots of you guys know what that is. It's where it's like the illness where you just like nonstop throw up, which scared the crap out of me. I was just like praying I wasn't one of those people. Thankfully I wasn't, which I'm so grateful for because I'm still working a full-time job. So that would have been a nightmare. But yeah, I just want to bring you guys week through week from, a lot of people say like the end of week 12 is the end of the first trimester, and then a lot of people say the end of week 13. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right from week 4, which is when I found out, all the way to week 14, just so I have kind of the most information to give you guys and I can share with you guys all of my first trimester symptoms. Okay, so I found out really, really early. I was kind of one of those crazy people who started testing super early. So my fiance Nick and I did try, like this was a planned pregnancy. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw that out there. So I was testing early because we were trying. So I wanted to know kind of as soon as possible. It's just my personality type. It's funny because when I was younger, I was not like that whatsoever. And now I have turned into extremely type A. Again, I don't know where that came from. Just the older I get, the more like type A I have become. So I need to know like immediately. I've also always been extremely impatient, so it could be a bit of that as well. But I just wanted to know, I wanted to like plan, and we had, you know, been trying. So every month I would test, and that was that. We were extremely, extremely grateful to get pregnant, honestly, pretty quickly. It did not take us very long at all. It took us like a couple of months. So again, I'm extremely grateful for that. I do not take that for granted because I know people in my personal life who have struggled with infertility. I know multiple people. I know people that I'm extremely close with that struggle with infertility. So I'm like getting emotional and tearing up. The freaking pregnancy hormones are real. I'm not trying to cry in this video, I swear. But yeah, I'm just throwing it out there that I am, you know, sensitive to the people who struggle, because a lot of people do, and I just want to let you guys know that my heart is with every single person who struggles with infertility, because, you know, I tried for a couple of months and it was like the longest couple of months. So I can definitely feel for the people who try and try and try for months and sometimes years, and, you know, it doesn't happen for them. I'm like a strong believer in, if there is a will, there is a way. So if you want to be a mom and, you know, that's something that is, you've been trying for a long time, I do believe it'll happen for you. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to ramble on about that. So yeah, so it didn't take us very long. I ended up getting pregnant, and I ended up finding out on 9 days past ovulation, which is very early. So I started testing, I think it was like 8 days past ovulation, and I got my positive pregnancy test the next day, which I was not expecting just because it was so early, and it was like pretty clearly positive at that point as well. So that was really, really exciting. It was a little bit shocking, again, just because I didn't expect it at the beginning, because I didn't have like a whole ton of symptoms when I first found out. So I wasn't like one of those people that a lot of people say they like have the intuition, they just know that they're pregnant. I definitely didn't have that. I thought like it could be a possibility, but I wasn't sure. So I found out at 9 days past ovulation, took the test, it was positive. I told Nick, he was super excited. It was really cute. And we're both obviously incredibly excited. I don't have any of that on video, which honestly I don't regret, because that was kind of more of a moment, I feel like, for myself that was just like personal between Nick and I. I love watching those videos though, so there's no shame to people who post those, because I watch those all the time and I still like watching those because they're just like so sentimental. But it just wasn't my thing, wasn't for me, so I didn't pull out the camera or anything. I just wanted it to be kind of like a more personal moment. So I found out at 9 DPO, which was April, I think it was like the 23rd, I found out. Yes, sorry, I'm just like going in my phone and looking back to what day. Yes, it was the Friday. So I found out April 23rd, which was a Friday. It was also like kind of, I don't want to say special is not the right word. I don't really know the right word, but I found out that my grandpa actually passed away on April 18th. So it was just shortly after that I found out I was pregnant, and my grandpa's loss was really, really sad for me. We weren't like incredibly close, but you know, we were close enough, and he was someone who was very important to me. He was just like a light, is really how I could describe him. He was funny. He was just a great person, and he passed, unfortunately. Thankfully, his passing was very peaceful at home, but that happened kind of out of the blue. So that happened, and then I found out I was pregnant, you know, like a week later, which in my mind, I think I read like a quote or something, which was right around that time. That was like when you have someone close to you pass away, right around the time that you find out you're expecting, it's like that person has gone on to be their guardian angel, which I thought was just really sweet, and I think of that all the time. So I feel like my grandpa is my baby's guardian angel. Okay, so I'm gonna actually get into like the week by week symptoms. The first, it took me a little bit of time before I actually started experiencing symptoms, which is pretty typical. The only first symptom that I noticed, which is the most TMI symptom I think I'm going to share, is, and this is something I don't really hear very many women talking about. I don't think I've ever actually heard anyone mention this in any of like the first trimester recap videos, or like the 2-week wait videos, which I also watched a lot of too when I was trying. But the symptom that I first experienced, that I'm still experiencing, not as much, but definitely was a lot, was increased discharge. Again, TMI. If you guys are not into TMI, probably don't watch this video, because there's going to be some of it for sure. But increased discharge, like way more than normal. It wasn't like gross discharge. It was just like watery and like a little bit white, which I'm not used to. Usually I have like a little bit when I ovulate, and that's it. So then normally you like dry up before your period comes. So that was really all I had, was just a lot of discharge, and I was kind of like, that's weird. I think that was the first thing that kind of like put a little thought into my head that I could be pregnant. So that was my first symptom. I'm still experiencing that. That lasted throughout my entire first trimester. And it was a lot the first trimester, and I think that's fairly normal. I did a lot of research, and apparently it's normal. I just never hear anyone talking about that. So if you're trying to get pregnant and you have increased discharge, you could be pregnant. Maybe not, but you could be. So like I said, I didn't have like any strong symptoms for a little while after I found out, and I think that's due to just finding out really early. They say there's like that honeymoon period between when you find out you're pregnant to when your symptoms actually start hitting. That was definitely true for me. I think I found out at like 4 weeks, and I remember the exact date because I don't think I'll ever forget it. But I woke up on 5 weeks, 6 days. So I was almost 6 weeks, and I woke up incredibly incredibly nauseous. Like it just like hit me like a wall. I was pretty much okay. I had like maybe a little bit of nausea, if you could call it that, here and there before then. But this day I woke up and I was like, uh-oh, like this is not good. So I woke up with that on just before 6 weeks. That carried on that first day, and that carried on for 3.5 solid weeks. So the nausea was, I would say, my number one symptom for week 6, week 7, week 8, and then almost all of week 9. I was nauseous pretty much all the time. I'd have like little periods of time where I felt better, but pretty much from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I felt sick. And it wasn't even like it was just nausea. It felt more like, the best way that I would describe it, and I described it to Nick, was like being extremely hungover every day for 3.5 weeks straight. It felt like I went out drinking and like drank way too much the night before, with the combination of coming down with the flu. So that's the best way I could describe it. I was extremely nauseous, and I didn't end up throwing up within that time period, thankfully, but I just felt like I was going to all the time, and I just felt like gross, and just overall the nausea was really hard. I tried a few different things. The only thing that helped me was eating frequently. They say that a lot, and that is entirely true. That's the only thing that made me feel a little bit better, is if I consistently ate. I could not stomach a lot of things, which I'll get into, but I did have to eat like frequently throughout the day, and I found that subsided my nausea enough to where I could like at least get to work and do my job, sort of. So I would recommend that for sure. And then also drinking a ton of water, which is, it should be a no-brainer. I know it's really hard. That is something that I struggled with, and I will get into that with my next symptom. So along with my nausea came another one that was really strong for me that I wasn't really expecting to hit me, was food aversions and like food cravings. So those two kind of go hand in hand, or they did for myself. And my food aversions were definitely like, they took over kind of. Like I couldn't really stomach anything. The only thing that I wanted to eat was like mac and cheese, bread. I could eat bread all day, every day, like carbs. Pastas once in a while, and then I would have like a random craving for certain things at certain times, and then everything else sounded really gross to me. I always thought that was an exaggeration, to be honest. I did never think that that was like as real as it is. I don't know why. Just in my head I was like, oh, I'm not gonna experience it that bad. Maybe I won't want to eat like certain things, but no, I definitely had it to the extreme degree. I didn't really want to eat much. Like I said, I'd have like specific cravings for specific things at specific times, and that's all I would want to eat. Everything else sounded disgusting. Like it doesn't even sound disgusting. It's just like you can't eat it because it's not even edible. That's the best way I can describe it. And then as far as like my cravings, like I mentioned, I really I lived off Annie's mac and cheese. That stuff was a lifesaver. I really liked like garlic bread, toast. I had to have toast every single morning. I had Nick bring me toast in bed most mornings, just one piece of like plain butter toast, just so I could get out of bed without wanting to throw up. And then another one was like the classic, but I really craved pickles and like pickled cheese platters. So I'd have like pickles, cheese, and crackers. And then the only like weird craving I had was pickles with hot sauce, but like specifically Cholula hot sauce. So I would take a pickle and I would just put like a little bit of Cholula hot sauce on it, and I would eat it, and I would just continue to do that. And it was phenomenal at the time. I feel like that's not that weird. It's definitely a little bit weird, but I would probably honestly still eat that. But it was really good. I definitely had like more of the salty like carb cravings at the very beginning, which has recently changed. Oh, Theo's just gonna lick his toes right there, so there's that. So that was kind of like the majority of my like major symptoms for the first couple of weeks, from week 6 to week 9. I didn't actually throw up until I was 9.5 weeks. I threw up twice total, one at 9.5 weeks, then one, I think it was like 10 weeks or just over 10 weeks. And it was immediately in the morning. I woke up and like got out of bed and felt so sick, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I like puked up like stomach bile. It was really gross. So I did throw up twice, which isn't too bad. Like, I'll take that, honestly. It's not the worst thing ever. So that was it for my nausea. Another symptom that I experienced, that I'm still experiencing, is frequent urination. So you guys will hear that a lot. I've heard that pretty much like everyone who's pregnant pees like 24/7. I'm peeing like 3 times an hour. Like, I pee all the time. Obviously, I'm drinking a lot of water as well, but it's not even that. Even if I go a little bit without drinking water, I'm always having to pee. Same thing in the middle of the night. I wake up for sure 2 times at the beginning. During the first trimester, I was waking up, I would say 3 times on average a night to pee, which is, it's very frustrating, but it just is what it is. Another one that I experienced really early on that I almost forgot about was heightened sense of smell. So that is definitely a thing. For me, it wasn't that long. It was like 2 weeks I experienced that. And for me, everything smelled really gross. So that's lovely. Honestly, like, as soon as I'd walk into like my bedroom or my bathroom, I would either just like smell dirty socks or poop. Like, everything to me smelled like dirty socks or poop. And it was not a good time. Another thing too is, I remember he was outside working like in the garage, and he was like cutting wood or something, and he came back inside and he smelled like, this doesn't make any sense, but he smelled like iron, and it was so gross to me. I was like appalled. I couldn't even be near him. His shirt like smelled like iron, which is the weirdest thing, because it was like, it should be wood, but it didn't smell like wood. It smelled like something completely different, and it was the grossest smell. It was like so potent. So that was another one I experienced pretty early on. I don't really have that anymore, to be honest. That was more like the first couple of weeks. I remember I woke up the first day, it was like between 9 and 10 weeks, and I felt completely fine. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Like, I went from so sick to fine. And then I just kind of found it was like every other day I felt nauseous, and then I felt okay. And it went on like that till about 12 weeks. And then at 12 weeks, my nausea pretty much subsided altogether. 12 weeks, my nausea went away. And then pretty much instantly from there, I started getting acid reflux, which is something I have dealt with on and off for a really long time. I've had kind of a bad stomach my entire life, so a really sensitive stomach. So like bloating, indigestion, all that stuff is very, very normal for me. So, I'm used to that almost. Like, the acid reflux was a little bit worse than I was used to, though. It was really bad when I would lay down at nighttime. I would like feel the acid. I could like taste the acid in my mouth, because I would like regurgitate acid, which doesn't happen very often. So that was kind of unpleasant. However, that only lasted until like week 14, week 15. Like, I don't really have that anymore. So that was kind of a short symptom, but it happened pretty much right after my nausea subsided. So I had that. Another symptom that I've experienced pretty much right from the beginning is weird, vivid dreams. So I am someone who dreams a lot anyway, so I don't know if this was necessarily like pregnancy, but I think it does have something to do with it, because I've definitely noticed they're a lot more vivid than normal, and I'll wake up and I remember like my entire dream, like even last night. So that's something that I'm still experiencing now. And I did have baby dreams as well the first few weeks. I've had 3 in total. They say this like determines your gender. I don't know if that's true, because I've had my first dream, I had a baby boy, and I remember it really vividly. And then my last 2, I had girls. So I don't know the gender yet. We're actually finding out next week. So I will share that. Honestly, I'll probably just say it. I'm not going to post like a gender reveal or anything like that, just because we're not doing anything really. We're just going to find out, just the 2 of us, just Nick and I, and then we're just going to like FaceTime our friends and family. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing a gender reveal. It's just not really for us. Like, we would just rather find out just the 2 of us and then just tell everybody it's either a boy or a girl. So we just don't feel like we need anything, big. But if you want to go all out, then there is absolutely no problem with that. That's just not really our thing. One thing that I find a little bit strange that I actually did not experience, which I was like planning to, like I thought I would, is sore boobs. So I'm someone who gets sore boobs as soon as my period's about to come, usually like a few days before. That's how I know I'm going to start my period. And I have not really experienced that bad of sore boobs. Like they've been a little bit tender here and there, but they're not like extreme pain, which I was kind of expecting to have. I remember my mom telling me that's how she knew she was pregnant, is her boobs literally felt like they were going to fall off because they were so sore. And I've had here and there soreness, but it hasn't been anything to like the degree that I thought it was going to be. So that's interesting. So if your boobs aren't super sore, I wouldn't really worry or think too much about that, because mine usually are, and they aren't this pregnancy. And then my last symptom before I show you guys my belly is bloating. So I kind of mentioned this before, but I'm someone who's like kind of always bloated anyways, but I definitely noticed a bit of a difference in pregnancy. I still experience this now. It's like I wake up in the morning and I'm one size, and then by the time I go to bed, I'm like 4 sizes larger. So my stomach looks like I'm about 7 months pregnant by the end of the day. And then in the morning, I'm starting to notice more of a bump now and like more of a difference now. But at the beginning, I was just kind of bloated all the time, and my stomach would be so bloated that like I couldn't breathe. It would be painful. But again, that's something that I have always dealt with for the majority of my life. So it's nothing new. I used to just like pop Tums all the time. I think you are like technically allowed to take Tums, but I have not yet this pregnancy. So I don't really know anything about that. So don't take my word on that. Definitely to speak to your doctor. But I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about. I've gone over like a lot in this video, so it's probably going to be a long one. But hopefully you guys found it like informative or helpful, or maybe, you know, you can relate to some of the things that I mentioned. I always found comfort in that going through my first trimester, especially when there's just like, you have no idea what it's going to be, and you hear horror stories and you're like, oh gosh. So I hope you guys liked it. I'm going to go ahead and stand up and show you guys my belly now, and then that's going to be it for this video. So let's do that. Okay, so I've tucked in my shirt so you guys can like see my proper bump. So I'm sure you guys can see that. I mean, I am wearing black, so it's not like the easiest thing to see, but you can really see it against the white. So that is my 15 and a half week belly.